please like, subscribe, of course, share, hit the notification bell, leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok now. And yeah, we probably should move to actual Olympic basketball and jump into this.
We had a lot of questions from listeners about FIBA rules, the international teams, and all of that. So I've decided to interlace those questions with our whole explanation. And I thought we could get started with a question from YouTube, actually, that came just last night from Johnny Keene, who says, "Hi, great to see you covering the Olympics. Are there any differences in Olympic basketball compared to NBA rules?" Johnny, yes, there are. And we are about to cover all of them. The time differences are that instead of 4 12-minute quarters, there are 4 10-minute quarters. The timeout situation is that each team will have 2 in the first half, 3 in the second half. And then, should a game go to overtime, each team gets 1 timeout. In FIBA, there is a 5 personal foul limit as opposed to 6 in the NBA before a player can get disqualified. And technical fouls, or they'll call them unsportsmanlike fouls, do count toward that 5 personal foul limit for the individual. So similar
I think,
to...
just to jump in, I
Oh,
think
yeah,
it's
please.
unsportsmanlike would be like a flagrant that goes into a
Okay.
foul. The technical, I still is a technical. I'm not sure.
Okay.
They used to they
So
always
they're like
change those things.
sportsmanlike technicals? Or...
Yeah, they always change those because it used to be also a technical, and I also lost like track. Maybe now they're like went back to it is a foul. But like if a coach gets a technical or a player like argues and gets a technical, used to be that's a foul. I'm not sure anymore if they're adding that as fouls. But unsportsmanlike ones you're talking about, those would be like the transition foul, take fouls.
Mm-hmm.
Those count, but they're also
As
like
fouls.
shot like a technical. You have 2
Right.
free
You
throws
get
in a
the
ball. Yeah,
2
or 1.
free
Yeah,
throws in
yeah,
possession.
yeah.
I think it's 2 in FIBA. It's 1 in the
1
NBA.
NBA. Yep.
And those fouls do count, like technical fouls count toward the personal foul limit. That's something very important to remember. So it's a lot easier, I guess, to get disqualified. And yeah, you already explained the take foul. So the last category is like spacing and defense, which kind of changes like how the game is actually played. So the court is 3 feet shorter in FIBA compared to the NBA. The 3-point line is also shorter, 22 feet as opposed to it's like 23 and 0.75 in the NBA. And there is no defensive 3 seconds either. And the last major sort of defense rule is that basket interference or goaltending is kind of allowed, but only if the ball has already touched the rim. So there's no like rule about the cylinder or anything like that. You can't like hit the ball when it's still on its downward path, but as soon as it hits the rim, like it's basically fair game for either side. And the question about the spacing and defense rules that I wanted to discuss is whether it's the fact that the spacing is more cramped, the shorter 3-point line, the no defensive 3 seconds, allowing rim protectors to kind of camp out in the paint, or anyone to camp out in the paint if they want to on defense. Is that the reason that, at least to my eye, passing seems to be more favored in the FIBA game compared to the NBA game, where you get a lot more isolation, and it feels like isolation can be more successful in the NBA than in FIBA?
I think you're right. It's also like from a philosophical standpoint, we were always taught like the ball travels faster than even the guy with the ball dribbling. So that's also just gets into it. So everyone that's like much easier to like as to talk about like movement. But you're right. That defensive 3 seconds definitely like the cramped space. Like you have to. There's no other way. You can create that wall for Giannis like much nicer in FIBA basketball than you can in the NBA. And yeah, and then again because the 3-point line is what will be that like a foot and a half, something like that, like
Almost 2
shorter,
feet,
almost 2,
basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
That also helps out. Like you can't stretch it as much, and so I think you're right. Like that's a good read.
It's so interesting, all these differences between this, where the Olympics are supposed to be like this pure sport like experience almost, like you don't have to wait for it to get out of the cylinder and you can just like hit the ball. Like that seems very like instinctual, almost like when you're playing basketball, like you just like jump, swipe at the ball, like these rules. That's it's like getting back to the roots of basketball a little bit, and it's not like helping the offenses be explosive just to create like fan engagement and stuff. It's even Luka Doncic, like he said, if you want to put advantages back in the defense's hand, just eliminate the defensive 3-second rule.
Yeah, that'll be the first one.
Yeah. I'm more interested to see the fans and if they prefer this style and if they feel like a palpable difference from the NBA when they're watching it. So, you listeners who are watching this as you're watching the Olympic basketball, like let us know if you like these rules more and like what you'd keep, what you don't like. Because there's definitely some things to be learned, I think.
Yeah, it definitely just creates a different looking game, right? The reason that the NBA wants to, well, punish like transition stuff at all is so that you can get those like highlight plays in transition and dunks and things like that. You don't get those as much in FIBA. Often they'll like, like make a play on the ball,
Yeah,
take
they
those
get savvy
would
with
be
that, yeah.
transition take fouls, and then let the defense reset in the half court, and teams will kind of live with that as opposed to letting transition plays happen. That you don't see that as much in the NBA, right? And the same thing, basically the same thing in the half court with the no defensive 3 seconds. Like it's a lot easier to like run and dunk when you don't have like three guys zoning up on you. And Will, you and I pointed this out when we talked about how Team Canada looked versus Team USA. Yeah, Jamal struggled, but SGA didn't look great in that game, particularly on his isolation drives. And that's because Team USA was, understandably zoning up on him and really not allowing him to establish that rhythm if that was going to be the way that he attacked. So I think it's just a lot harder to go the one-on-one route in
Which
FIBA,
is fun to
regardless of how
watch.
dominant a single player could be, just because of those rules.
It really like cuts out the athleticism as your main goal, attribute.
Advantage.
Like
Yeah.
to have an advantage, which it's
Yeah.
still. I mean, you saw LeBron against Germany. Like, yeah, you still
Push through someone.
you still can do it.
Right.
But
It can cut it off to a degree.
but it cuts out all the bullshit though. Like he was playing. Like I was enjoying watching LeBron since forever. Like watching him play basketball with that in that game, and he took over. It's like there's no flopping anymore. It's not gonna get free
Yes.
throws. Like this is like basketball. He's gonna okay. She shot the three, like clutch three off of great like reads. Then he took the ball inside, like play defense, block some shots. Like it just you're right. It kind of gets it down to like the basics, and then it does really make it fun for like eliminates that athleticism is the main part, and it really accentuates the team play and like the understanding of where people are and the reading those things in the game, like
and where you
game.
should be.
And you get
because spacing is
like
more cramped. There's more of a premium on positioning, I guess, is one way to put it, right?
You can't be so like you're right. Like you can be like NBA is large. So like if you miss your position on the court by like 2 feet, like it doesn't matter that much during the regular season, especially in FIBA. Like if you're closer by 2 feet, your defender is closer by 2 feet based on the angles. The pass doesn't go as easily anymore. Like you can't get through that line. Like all of a sudden you play, you're driving and it's 3 people around you because people weren't actually spacing in the right geometrical positions on the court. And it's really, that's what gets to precision preparation. You see a lot of the teams that do well sometimes, it just turns out like because they played so much time together and so they know each other.
Yeah.
You had the Latvia last year being like really good in the tournament because that team was together for a while. So they just know each other. Serbia usually does well because of that too. It's just, we have a lot of like similar philosophies, so people already know. But then these guys also played each other since they were in high school, so like you don't even need like too much, catch up to actually be what they are. So I love it. Like it's so much fun from that perspective.
You have the whole idea of national pride depending on where you live, and this tournament will provide broader topics to talk about basketball too, and not just like the drama that we get into with the NBA. Like this conversation is already going to like rule sets and strategy, and that's what's going to be fun about covering this. So I hope people like get into it and enjoy watching it. And player development, the players in this tournament improve, they build relationships. Even like we've seen teams be built in the NBA because they play together on a national team, stuff like that. But let's talk a little bit about the structure too.
Yes, we really want to get into the actual teams. Well, you're talking about sidestepping these drama conversations, but I'm looking
But there's
forward
still
to
some.
international competition drama. Okay. Yeah, as in basketball, when I follow figure skating, another Olympic sport, but a Winter Olympic sport, one of my favorite things is to root against other countries as much as I root for my favorite players and teams. All right. So the basketball that we're talking about is men's 5x5. The reason that I wanted to clarify is that there is also 3x3 basketball as well. And obviously, women in both of those disciplines. And Team USA is very strong in both of those as well. So I encourage people to watch them. We want to go over the structure of the men's 5x5 tournament. There are two kind of phases of this. There's group play or pool play, where each group has 4 teams in it, and they kind of do sort of a round robin style. They each play each other once. At the end of it, you get kind of points based on winning games and point differential, all of that. You get ranked within your group. The top 2 teams in each of the 3 groups moves on, and then there are 2 wild cards as well. There are tiebreakers involving your head-to-head record, your point differential, and I think like points scored becomes the next one, but usually it ends at point differential because that kind of rarely is a tie. And then after the pool play phase, the 8 teams move on to the knockout rounds. Now, these are the single elimination games where there is a quarterfinals, a semifinals, and a finals, as well as a bronze medal game. But now that we have the tournament rules, let's move on to the actual teams involved.
It's weird how they selected this year. They do like they create new
Random draws,
groups and then
right?
it's random draws. Because it used to be
Yeah.
last one, or at least last one too, but 2016 for sure. It was 2 groups of 6. So you play like a bunch of games, and then it's
Mm,
4 teams from each group go and just first from Group A what plays
mm,
fourth in Group B, and so it's kind of crisscross. People should be ready for like, oh, there's another random drawing that somehow has
Hmm.
also some restrictions, so they don't
right.
want like Canada and Australia playing again, for example, in the quarterfinals. So they want to at least like make sure it's you can face your own group until the semis,
I see.
kind of
So that
feature.
is
Yeah,
included in like that's a restriction of the random draw.
yeah. It's like
Okay,
a
that's good to know
first
because
go
I
in
did
the same.
hear
Yeah, first 3 go into one pool. They get drawn from there, and then it's like second teams. I don't know. It's just
Yeah, and like they
yeah,
don't like the top teams are separated out
yeah,
into
yeah.
different pools and stuff like that. Yeah,
And then
right.
it's
Okay,
luck. And then
so
it's luck.
yeah.
exactly. But let's just quickly go over the groups. So Group A, where Jamal will be playing for Team Canada, has Canada, Greece, Australia, and Spain. Group B has France, Germany, Japan, and Brazil. Group C has Serbia, South Sudan, Puerto Rico, and Team USA. Voya, I wanted to know if you think that Group A is actually the group of death in all of this for any given team.
I think
Because I
so.
kind of
Yeah.
see all of these teams are as at least like a B team.
It well
If
the
I
thing
were
is
to
like
grade it.
yeah, and this is, I mean, this is all, for me at least, all killer no filler tournament. It's one of the
Mm,
rare ones that happens in the Olympics. World Cup they started expanding because of it, but World Cup they kind of expanded too much. And this last one was basically until the quarterfinals. You didn't even have any actual fun. So it just from like a drama standpoint, this is going to be really, really good because there's no. I mean, you can't slip up. Like, you can't count on. Oh well, fine. Like we'll win the next one, or like we can time it. And
yeah.
especially because the
Yeah.
basketball
Every
just
game's important.
in basketball globally has become much better. So like there's no like you would have a team even in Puerto Rico, like you have a 1 or 2 good players, but like they really didn't have a shot. Or like Angola would play and it's like cool, but they would lose like by 20, possibly like 30 to America, or like 60 to America at one point, and then pretty easily to other teams. So like at least you have like, oh, I know I'm gonna win this. There's no easy ones. Like Serbia should win against Puerto Rico and South Sudan comfortably. Like when you talk about what players they have and the style of play and everything, it's not guaranteed. Like Japan's has pretty decent group of people that can light it up. Brazil always is uncomfortable in these settings. Like they have usually good coaching that they bring in from outside, and like there's no really like, oh, it's an easy out. Australia maybe is
And
not as
if you
strong
drop
as
a
it used
game,
to be.
there's
But
no like, oh, I have like a guaranteed blowout that I can
yeah,
kind of rest
exactly.
on to help me
Yeah.
in point differential. Not so much because all of these teams are
Yep.
like minimum like competent in like this level of against this level of
Yep.
competition.
And you were saying like you're right. Like it could be an upset because it's such a condensed, also like every other day type of play or every third day. Like you could slip up like easily in the Olympics. That's why it's so fun. Like you have that week or so to like get it going. There's no month drawn out tournament, so it's fun. I love
Yeah,
it. This
it's
one's one of the
scary.
should be one of the best ones. I don't think we might not have a boring game.
Yeah, there's so much talent in this tournament for sure.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, thank you if you made it this far. I hope this episode helped you as you get into FIBA basketball and help you enjoy it more. And just remember, winning is fun and losing sucks.